Hey everybody, it's your spiritual big brother here. Let's talk about one of the hardest spiritual lessons I ever had. And it's going to be talking about discernment. And it's a really difficult one. It's been difficult for me. I'm sure that it's difficult for you. And if you've never heard of discernment or you don't really understand it, hopefully I can kind of clear that up for you in a way. But this is one that has always challenged me, and I think it challenges anybody that's spiritual. I feel like this is kind of when you really start leveling up and you're at a place of spirituality where you pretty much have all of the lessons right, you have most of your core beliefs done, and you're just kind of executing them at some point. I feel like that's kind of, you're going to run into discernment at any point, but whether or not you realize it's discernment or that you need to use discernment, I feel like that's when you start really climbing the ladder. So let's talk about it a little bit. It's a hard one to define. But the way that I like to kind of look at discernment is it's kind of when you feel like you have a core principle or belief formed, okay? And it seems like your belief is black and white, right? You know how to handle a situation, you run into something, and you can fall back on that belief to kind of help you in that situation instantly. For instance, let's say that you want to help people, right? You want to serve people, people that need help, people that are, I don't know, weak or in some position where they can't help themselves, and you can run and help them. Okay, now on paper, that seems pretty black and white, straightforward. Help somebody when they need help, right? But what happens when that gets challenged, okay? What happens when you meet a situation or a circumstance or an obstacle or challenge, and now all of a sudden, that's not so black and white anymore. It's not an easy answer. And sometimes we even feel like we should go against our beliefs because we almost know it's the wrong thing to do, whether or not that means to protect our own energy or our boundaries and just, maybe we're tired and we just don't have it. I mean, of course, there are exceptions to that. Somebody in danger being mugged. I mean, help them if you can without putting yourself in harm's way too much if you feel drawn to that. But here's the big key. Let me bring it back around full circle. Let me give you a real life example that I had that challenged me and helped me see it a little bit differently. When I was a manager, probably about 15 or 20 years ago for a food market, I had a guy come in around Christmas time. And, he looked disheveled. He looked like he was kind of out of place. He looked down on his luck. And he even played the cards right, too. He was like, hey, man, listen, it's almost Christmas time. I need to get back to my family. I got to catch a train. He's like, I need to get there in such amount of time. And I felt awful. I'm like, man, I get it. You want to go see your family. I'm like, that sucks. I'm like, I don't know what happened to you. I didn't ask questions, but I just gave him everything I had, which was about $70 or so. And, he went on his way and I never thought I'd see that guy again. So I felt like I did the right thing and it felt good. I kind of was like, hey, help a guy. He needed help. So what happens? About 2 or 3 months later, this guy stumbles into the store again, drunk. And then I realized that I had been taken advantage of. Okay, this guy took money and went off and got drunk with the money that I gave him. So you can see where discernment kind of falls apart when you start to see the reality of what people might use you for. I mean, you can get used out there. People will use you for your time, your energy, your goodness, your good intentions, if you're not careful. And that hurts, getting burned, being taken advantage of from people that you put all your faith into. And yes, I get it. A lot of people that maybe are only hearing this for the first time and they haven't really thought about it or sat with it long enough. And you're kind of that person that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and just hoping people will always have good intention. You're going to run into some times where you're going to be challenged with that. And it's hard. That's going to reshape your beliefs a little bit more. It's not going to be so black and white. And so that's really where discernment comes in. It makes you think twice in real life situations when you're kind of confronted with something similar to that again. It's going to make you stop and think twice. And it's going to make it not be so black and white. You might not always now, moving forward, after you've learned to discern the situations, to just give yourself away in every situation where a person needs help. You might sit back and think about or recall the last time that you ran into that situation, just like the one that I'm kind of explaining to you now. When somebody asks me for money or they ask me for help, I'll think about it. I'll ask them more questions. I'll make sure that what I'm doing is for the right reasons. This kind of goes back to, I probably should have asked that guy, hey, what's going on, or something like that, or kind of, ask him, push him, get some pressure on him and see what he says. And if it doesn't line up or it doesn't make any sense, I'll kind of know it's probably not going to be for the right reasons. And maybe I'll give him just enough to buy the ticket, the train ticket, rather than giving him everything I had on my wallet. So you can see how you can become wiser with this. And I think that that's what discernment's all about. And that's what's really challenging about it too, is because we all have these loose beliefs that we want them to be black and white. We want them to be easy, but sometimes they're not. And that's when you need discernment. I hope this has been helpful, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one.